Most great leaders are born to wealth and privilege. But there was a man who rose from the splintered logs of a frontier cabin to save the very soul of a nation. He was Abraham Lincoln, a simple man who carried within him the great commission to mend a country being torn apart by its deepest contradictions. He was the blacksmith of the Union, the man who would use his iron will and the fires of his conviction to reforge America from the ashes of its division. His story is an eternal lesson in persistence, in compassion, and in the price of freedom. Abraham Lincoln was born into abject poverty in the backwoods of Kentucky in the early 19th century. His life was a long and brutal chain of hardship, struggle, and personal loss. He had no formal schooling, no teachers, but he possessed an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. By the flickering firelight of a log cabin, he taught himself to read, to write, devouring every precious page he could find. He worked every job imaginable to survive, from river boatman to shopkeeper, until he taught himself the law and became a lawyer in a remote country town. It was these years, living among the working people, understanding their burdens, that forged in him a profound sense of justice and fairness. Though he met with constant failure in his early political campaigns, he persisted, never abandoning the path he believed to be right. Lincoln's ideals were forged upon a simple yet powerful conviction, one born with America itself, that all men are created equal. As the nation fractured over the question of slavery, Lincoln stood as a beacon of conscience. He saw slavery not as a political issue, but as a moral stain, an unconscionable contradiction to the very foundation of liberty upon which the nation was built. His resolute and eloquent stance carried him to the White House in the election of 1860, a victory that immediately ignited the greatest and bloodiest crisis in American history, the Civil War. The Civil War was not merely a conflict over economics or states' rights. It was a battle for the soul of America. As president, Lincoln faced an unimaginable pressure. On one hand, to keep the Union from dissolving. On the other, to fight for the liberation of millions living in bondage. He had to make the most difficult and agonizing decisions, from firing inept generals to witnessing the horrific sacrifice of hundreds of thousands of soldiers on the battlefield. He likened himself to a blacksmith, trying to shape a white-hot piece of steel upon the anvil, a violent, painful process, but one necessary to forge the future of the Republic. In the darkest hours of the war, Lincoln committed his most audacious and monumental act. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. This was not merely a political decree, it was a profound moral declaration, transforming the war from a fight to preserve a union into a crusade for liberty. Months later, at Gettysburg, on a battlefield still shrouded by the smoke of war, he delivered his immortal address defining the purpose of the struggle, to ensure that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Those words became the guiding creed for democracy the world over. When the war finally drew to a close with the Union victorious, Lincoln did not seek vengeance. He sought reconciliation. In his second inaugural address, he called for a national healing, asking the people to act with malice toward none, with charity for all. He worked tirelessly and successfully to persuade Congress to pass the 13th Amendment, officially and permanently abolishing slavery throughout the land. He had completed his great work at the forge, creating a union that was not only preserved, but was now stronger, freer, and more just. But fate can be cruel. Just days after the victory, while attending a play, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. His death was a terrible loss, an ultimate sacrifice for the national healing to which he had dedicated his life. He did not live to see the full fruits of peace, but his legacy is immortal. The story of Lincoln teaches us that great leadership is not perfection, but the ability to learn from failure, to hold fast to ideals in the midst of chaos, and to never lose faith in the better angels of our nature. Like a master blacksmith, he had used the fires of suffering and war to create a beautiful and unbreakable piece of steel, the United States of America.